Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is the Friday News Dump, number 40. That's right. It's time to look at all the news, maybe even update on some news we've done, like just tomorrow. There's some updates for that stuff. So, welcome to Before Coffee. The father and daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we are looking up our stories, 30 minutes before we start, with no caffeine in our bodies. So, let's look at those headlines. Today on Before Coffee, Poland sets condition for Ukraine's EU accession.
And the dock workers' strike has ended already, at least temporarily, and a election-denying idiot goes to prison.
The top EU court rules that member states must recognize gender identity changes.
And we look at recent celebrity deaths in our Friday news dump.
For culture news, majority of UK children's books with black main characters are written by white authors, a study finds.
And it's World Smile Day, so smile today because it's Friday, October 4th, 2024 on Before Coffee.
Yep, it's smiling. We're just gonna smile creepily this entire show. Like the happy people we totally are. Tomorrow is also International Celebrating Teachers Day. So if you want to appreciate your teachers and how they basically promote society and the future generations, then celebrate that tomorrow on Saturday. Anyways, first story, we're going to talk about Poland and how they've set a condition for their acceptance of Ukraine's EU accession. Because when you want to ascend to the EU, not only do you have to follow a bunch of certain rules, like your money has to be at a certain inflation rate to the euro, and all sorts of things that are like internal, you also have to have all the people in the EU agree to let you join. If they don't want you to join, they can just say no. That's what happened to the UK for years with France. France kept on denying the UK to join. And of course, what ended up happening is de Gaulle, the president, was like, these guys are going to join, take stuff and leave. And then what happened in Brexit? Well, they joined, took stuff and then left in 2016. Well, voted to leave in 2016. Either way, Poland has set a condition that they require Ukraine to follow if they want to ascend into the EU. This is by Eurocitiv. Poland will block Ukraine's European Union accession until Kyiv solves the issue of exhuming the victims of the Volhynia massacre, which has been a contentious issue between the two countries. Defense Minister Władysław Kozyniak-Kamysz said on Thursday, which was the 3rd of October. On the 2nd of October, Wednesday, the Ukrainian Institute of National Remembrance announced plans to allow field research in 2025 into the Volhynia massacre in the western Ravine region, a dark episode of massacres by Ukrainian nationalists during the Second World War. Poland has praised Ukraine's decision to pave the way for the exhumation of some victims of World War II era massacres after a dispute over the issue soured relations between the neighbors. There will be no consent for Ukraine to join the European Union if it does not resolve the Volhynia issue, Władysław Kozyniak-Kamysz told the Wirtualna Polska news outlet. I apologize for my Polish. I don't know it. He added that he had not changed his mind, even though he knew President Andrzej Duda had a different opinion. Duda, it's like my dyslexia activates when I see Polish words. I just can't read them. I have to really look at the letters and pronounce it slowly. Duda has been a staunch supporter of Ukraine since the first day of the full-scale Russian invasion and is a close friend of his Ukrainian counterpart Vladimir Zelensky. He added that even if the EU member states agreed to Ukraine's accession to the bloc, his Polish People Party, PSL, and EPP would block the decision if the issue remained unresolved. The Polish government estimates that around 100,000 Poles and 5,000 Ukrainians were killed in the Rivne and Volyn regions of present-day Western Ukraine between 1943 and 1945. But I guess they don't know why or how or who did it. The main aims of the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, UPA, were to win Ukraine's independence by driving out Nazi and later Soviet occupiers, and to expel Poles from what is claimed to be, historically, Ukrainian land. Okay. So there was a bit of a border issue that kind of grayed out, so they were unsure of who belonged where, I guess. So they had to. Ukrainians decided this is Ukrainian land. They kicked the Poles out, and the Poles probably weren't happy about that, being kicked out of a place they probably were living for a while. So. Anyways, Ukraine seems to have forgotten Poland's support. In order to join the EU, a country must meet certain conditions, not only economic, but also those regarding the historic truth, Pozniak argued. He disagreed with the widely criticized statement made last month by Ukraine's then Foreign Minister, Dmytro Kuleba, who said that historical issues such as the Volhynia massacre should be left to historians so that the focus can shift to building a shared future. Is it not being given to historians, or they're just saying it's in the history, let's not talk about it? I'm not sure what they're asking for here. Pozniak, this is the worst formulation that can be used. The defense minister also rejected Duda's opinion that anyone who blocked Ukraine's ascension to the EU is acting in line with Vladimir Putin's policy. Yeah, I mean, okay, that's not fair either. Not trying to make people on their side. If you're not with us, you're against this ideology is not great if you for the EU. I fundamentally disagree with this. Coming to terms with the past and respect for the members of the bloc a country wants to join is essential. I agree. You should make sure that when you join a union, that everyone wants you to be there, because you don't want somebody. I mean, look at Hungary, man. I bet you there's people who are like regretting backing down and letting Hungary join, but maybe it's more of a recent thing. I don't know. I need to look at the history of Hungary joining the EU and how that happened, and if what's happening now is just like a completely unpredictable result, you know? Just a far-right Putin puppet put in charge of Hungary while they're in the EU. We were the first to send a military aid to Ukraine after the Russian invasion had started. The Ukrainian side appears to have forgotten of this aid. When asked about the risk that conditioning Ukraine's ascension to the EU could contribute to anti-Ukrainian resentment in Polish society, he replied that most honest thing to do was set clear conditions and express expectations transparently. I agree. We're all adults here for the most part. Let's talk to each other. Let's figure out what each side wants, and then just provide that. Countries are always scared of looking in the past and revealing crimes they may or may not have committed, when they just need to say, you know what, that did happen. But it didn't. You didn't do it, right? The current president, Duda of Ukraine, didn't commit the crimes. So why is he acting like he's guilty of them? You didn't do anything. Just find out what happened. Find out the truth. Find out the bodies that were killed. You know, and give some closure to the families of whoever died in these massacres, and move on with your life so you can join the EU for whatever that will do in the future. We'll see. I think Rog is having technical problems right now. I don't know what you're doing.
Okay. Well, you keep dropping off on me, so
okay.
I don't know if it's me, but hopefully, is it my story?
Yep, it's time for your story.
Okay. Hopefully I don't drop off because you keep dropping off on me.
Okay.
Although I did see the stream seem to be working. I don't know what's going on. But here we go. We're going to talk about the story we talked about yesterday, which has already at least been resolved for now. The dock workers unions to suspend strike until January 15th to allow time to negotiate new contract. This is from Tom Krischer of AP News. So we're just going to update this real quick. The union representing 45,000 striking U.S. dock workers at East and Gulf Coast ports reached a deal Thursday to suspend the 3-day strike until January 15th to provide time to negotiate a new contract. The union, the International Longshoremen's Association, is to resume working immediately. The temporary end of the strike came after the union and the U.S. Maritime Alliance, which represents ports and shipping companies, reached a tentative agreement on wages, the union and ports said in a joint statement. So let's see. President Biden's comment on this: with the grace of God and the goodwill of neighbors, it's going to hold. President Biden told reporters Thursday night after the agreement. In a statement later, Biden applauded both sides for acting patriotically to reopen our ports and ensure the availability of critical supplies for Hurricane Helene recovery and rebuilding. That's right. Don't be striking while people are dying. That's bad form. In other news, we have Tina Peters, the election judge in Colorado, sentenced to 9 years in prison. This is from CNBC.com, Dan Mangan. All right. Tina Peters, former Colorado Republican county clerk who espoused the false conspiracy theory that former President and defendant Trump lost the 2020 election due to ballot fraud, was sentenced Thursday to 9 years in prison for crimes related to the breach of her county's voting system. You are no hero, State District Court Judge Matthew Barrett told Peters. You are a charlatan who used and is still using your prior position in office to peddle snake oil that's been proven to be junk time and time again. Your lies are well documented. These convictions are serious. I'm convinced you'll do it all over again if you could, Barrett told the 68-year-old former Mason County clerk, who was accused of using another person's security badge to allow someone else to gain access to county's election system. Accused, she was convicted. Why do they act like this is up for debate, whether she did it or not? They gotta stop parsing these words. She was accused. No, she was convicted. This is because she was. I'm sorry. These reporters are trying to both sides everything. She's convicted, not accused. Anyway, the person who used that badge was affiliated with Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow, and the leading proponent of the claim that Trump's defeat for a second term was due to ballot fraud. You're as defiant a defendant as this court has ever seen, Barrett told Peters. Peters, who had requested probation, told the judge before being sentenced, I've never done anything with malice to break the law. I've only wanted to serve the people of Mason County. Whatever. Mason County District Attorney Daniel Rubenstein told Barrett that Miss Peters has demonstrated repeatedly that she does not think she did anything wrong. She submitted a statement to the court in a pre-sentence investigation report giving excuses, giving justification, but never once acknowledging that she did something wrong. This is not the way to handle this, Rubenstein said. What does every 12-step program start with? It starts with acknowledging you have a problem, and she has not done that, and there is no purpose in rehabilitation for somebody who does not think they did anything wrong. Peters was immediately taken into custody after Barrett rejected her lawyer's request that she made free. Peters was convicted by jury trial in August of 7 criminal counts, including attempt to influence public servant, conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation, violation of duty, and failure to comply with Secretary of State requirements. Before she was sentenced, Colorado County Clerks Association Director Matt Crane told Barrett that Peters' false allegations in a real and specific way have led directly to death threats and general threats to the lives and families of people who work in our elections. She has willingly aided individuals in our country who believe that violence is a way to make a point. She has knowingly fueled a fire within others who choose threats as a means to get their way. Shortly after Peters was sentenced, the Republican presidential nominee, defendant Jay Trump, is still claiming that he won the election in 2020. So there you go. That moron is still running around the country lying to people. This is all he does. And this poor, stupid, delusional lady is going to spend 9 years in prison. Hopefully, just sit around mumbling to herself, going, "I'm right, I'm right, I'm right." And then her soulmate's going to go, "Can I get a new cellmate? This lady's insane. And she can't knit or anything. She's driving me crazy." Anyway. Here's your story on the idiot election and I are going 9 years in prison for absolutely no good reason. I mean, if she just would have found some kind of contrition, you probably would have got probation, but instead she just like, "I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong." Yeah, okay, lady. Back to you.
Some people are just living in their own reality. Also, I'm not sure if it's good or bad to hear that the strike is over, but I did hear it's going to continue in January, so I guess expect some more strikes happening in January. Because
that doesn't mean they're going to continue the strike. It just means that they're
well, I saw
off the...
that they've basically they made a deal where you stop it now and do it later, which, I mean, that's not the point of strikes, but I get it. They wanted to not keep it going because it's bad luck for the economy.
Strikes aren't good. They're not good for the workers. They're not good for anybody. So who wants to strike? I don't think anybody does.
That's true. Nobody wants to do it. You're right. But sometimes it's necessary.
So maybe they'll have 3 months of cooling off and they'll get something solved before they have to go on strike again in January. And if not, they get an extended Christmas vacation. They have time to save their money for a strike. Time to save up them nickels and dimes.
All right.
Time to stock up on things that aren't going to be available after January.
Buy all the toilet paper.
Not toilet paper is American made.
So let's talk about some more EU news. This is from the Washington Post by Carla Adam. A top EU court has ruled that member states must recognize gender identity changes, even if the country that they're in, right, the state that the person lives in, doesn't. If you're a European citizen, it's under your human rights to be recognized as the gender you identify. This is from out of London. The European Union's top court ruled Friday, which is today, October 4th, that member states must recognize legal changes to gender identity processed elsewhere within the EU, in a case with a far-reaching implication for transgendered people across Europe. The European Court of Justice decided with Aryan Mirzarafia-Ahi, a transgendered man who sued his home country of Romania for refusing to accept the name and gender identity changes he initiated in Britain when it was still a member of the EU. So this was like 10 years ago, and they're still like, no, we're not going to call you that. The court agreed that Romania violated his right to citizenship and free movement by refusing to update his Romanian identity documents. An EU country that does not allow for a change of name and gender identity legally acquired in another member state is contrary to European Union law and is hindering the exercise of the right of free movement and residence, the court said. In a news release on its ruling, adding that the fact Britain is no longer part of the EU does not affect the application of the bloc's law. Gender, like a first name, is a fundamental element of personal identity. A divergence between identities resulting from such refusal of recognition creates difficulties for a person in proving his or her identity in a daily life, as well as serious professional, administrative, and private inconvenience, it said. Yeah, it's as simple as accidentally putting in the wrong birthday. For the longest time, my doctor had me on the wrong date. It had me on like 93 instead of 94, and I was like, that's not my birthday. You guys need to change that, because it doesn't sound that serious, but this small stuff like the wrong birth date, the wrong gender, the wrong height can like completely destroy everything, because people who do bureaucracy and who have all that paperwork are looking for all the inconsistencies, you know? It can get even worse if you're in a less safe time, right? If you're in a less safe time in the world, you can be treated as an outcast and a pariah if your documents don't match what, you say you are. Mirza Rafi Ahi's legal team hopes the case will open the door for other transgender people to travel freely and work or study in EU member states. Except an LGBTQ rights advocacy group in Romania that helped with this case said there are tens of thousands of people in similar situations. The ease of obtaining a gender recognition certificate varies widely within the EU. Some countries, including Belgium, Ireland, and Spain, permit people to self-declare. Other countries, such as Cyprus, Latvia, and Slovakia, require sterilization or surgical interventions. Disgusting. Bulgaria and Hungary, meanwhile, don't allow legal changes to gender identity at all. Why am I not surprised? In socially conservative Romania, the process is relatively difficult. In 2021, the European Court of Human Rights ruled that Romania had violated the privacy rights of 2 transgender people when a judge refused on the grounds that they did not furnish proof that they had undergone surgery. Ms. Rafi Ahi moved to the United Kingdom in 2008, became a British citizen in 2016, the year of the Brexit referendum, wow, bad planning, and received a gender recognition certificate 4 years later when Britain was on its way out. But Romania refused his request to update his Romanian passport, which he said effectively restricted his travel. Yeah, they would probably look at the passport and then look at him and go, huh? You're stealing someone's identity. That's not you. Freedom of movement is one of the key pillars of the EU, allowing citizens to live and work anywhere in the bloc. Mirza Rafi Ahi was also denied a new birth certificate and identity card, which Romanians need for everyday interactions such as using public transportation, going to the bank, or picking up the mail. Yeah, it's going to be really hard to pick up your Amazon package when they don't want to give it to you because they don't know who the hell you are. This isn't you! Generally, an issue like gender certificates would be deemed a national issue. However, national laws can clash with EU laws when there is a cross-border dimension. It goes to the issue of competence, meaning, does the EU have the power to have any say over these things? It's like in the States. Is it a state issue or a federal issue? Said Catherine Barnard, an expert in EU law at the University of Cambridge. When it comes to anything that gets in the way of free movement, then the EU has the power. She said that in these kind of cases, free movement has become a kind of Trojan horse to push change. Of course, to liberals, it's a good thing. Use the court to push Romania to become more progressive. But if you're more conservative or hostile to the EU, you can say, how dare the EU interfere with things that go to the heart of our beliefs, she said. That's true, a lot of Eurosceptics will use EU overreach as a reason to leave the EU. Look at that, they're telling us what to do. They're just supposed to be an economic thing. Get out of here, you ruined our lives. Rulings by the European Court of Justice are binding and impacting millions of people across the bloc, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're implemented. Yeah, it's hard to enforce something when you don't really have a mechanism to enforce it other than telling Romania, we're not giving you any more money. And they're like, no, we need that money. In 2018, the court ruled in favor of Adrian Coman, a gay man from Romania, who fought in the right to have his American husband, Clay Hamilton, live with him in Romania. The couple had been married in Brussels, where same-sex marriage was permitted and where Coman worked as an EU official. But authorities in Romania, where same-sex marriage is barred, did not recognize their marriage. The court acknowledged that the EU residency rights are awarded to spouses and that spouse was gender neutral, right? Not just wives or husbands, a spouse. The Coman case had been used in courts by same-sex married couples to win residency rights, including in Bulgaria, but Romania has yet to grant Hamilton residency rights. Same resistance could follow Friday's ruling. Even if Romania refuses to implement it, which I hope won't be the case, trans and intersex people in similar situations in other EU countries will be able to use the judgment in their own cases, Mary Helene Ludwig, Senior Strategic Litigation Officer at ILGA Europe, said. So, this is the problem. You can make all the laws you want, but if you can't implement the laws, it doesn't matter. But the EU doesn't really have a lot of power to do that. I know a lot of times we were arguing if, should the EU have some sort of military or police to enforce its rulings? But I think the idea is that the EU wants kind of camaraderie, want, I can't say the word, but they want everyone to work together and be on the same level and work through and compromise and that kind of stuff. So if you just use a heavy hand to implement your laws, that doesn't really go into the spirit of the EU, which is, can we just agree that this is correct and stop arguing about it? Which usually the EU is arguing for. We get that you're a conservative.
An arguing body.
Yeah, we understand you're conservative, traditional Christian Orthodox values, but does that really affect your day in and out life if somebody wants to be a man or a woman? No, not really, does it? So that's your news coming out of Romania and the EU. On to your story.
Hey. From EU intrigue to celebrity deaths. So we're just a few celebrities died this week. We're just going to catch up on 5 of them.
Get your
Some of
Kleenexes
them
ready.
not as famous as others. What's that?
Get your Kleenex ready. Your tissue.
Okay, well, it's an American reality show called American Pickers, which I watch, and Frank Frisch, one of the stars of that show, has died. He hasn't been on the show in like 4 years. We'll do his quick obituaries. All these obituaries are brought to you by Legacy.com. This one is written by Linnea Crowther. Anyway, Fritz began co-hosting American Pickers with longtime friend Mike Wolf. In 2010, the two traveled to the U.S. in search of antiques and collectibles, which they would sell in their respective shops or clients. Though the show is based in Wolf's store, Antique Archaeology in LeClaire, Iowa, Fritz was the owner of another outlet, Frank Fritz Finds, in nearby Savannah, Illinois. The History Channel show was immediately a hit when it debuted, thanks to the friends' rapport as they traveled the back roads of America in search of unique finds. Each star had a personal favorite picks, and Frank's included vintage motorcycles, antique toys, and oil cans. Frank left American Pickers unexpectedly in early 2020, and he never returned to the show, replaced as co-host by Wolf's brother Robbie Wolf and friend Jersey John Saleh. It was later revealed that Fritz and Wolf had a falling out, though they reconciled months before Fritz's death. In 2022, Fritz suffered a stroke, and he continued to have health complications in the years that followed. So, rest in peace at the age of 60, Frank Fritz. Other deaths this following and within the last 7 to 10 days: Maggie Smith, star of Downton Abbey and Harry Potter. Maggie Smith was Oscar, Emmy, and Tony-winning actress. After getting her start in the British stage in the early 1950s, Smith became known as to a broader audience. Words are hard. In the 1960s, when she starred as Desdemona in Othello and received her first Oscar nomination. She would win her first Oscar as well as the BAFTA for her performance in the title role of 1969's The Prime of Miss Jane Brodie. A second Academy Award followed in 1978 for California Suite. Smith was frequently seen on stage and screen throughout the 1980s and 1990s with notable films including A Room with a View, Hook, Sister Act, and Richard III. A new generation got to know Smith as she took on the role of Professor Minerva McGonagall in the Harry Potter film series beginning in 2001. The same year, she played the memorable role in Gosford Park, for which she won a SAG Award as part of the film's ensemble cast. As the Harry Potter series wound to a close, Smith took on another high-profile role in 2010 as she played Violet Crawley, Dowager Countess of Grantham, in the popular period drama television series Downton Abbey. Smith won 3 Emmy Awards during that show's 6-season run. Long after the age when good roles became hard to get for most actresses, Julian Fellowes wrote the role of the Dowager Countess in Downton Abbey with the in-demand Smith in mind. The show's creator and writer, who told The Guardian in 2014 that Smith was his muse and had seen her deliver his lines before he wrote the 2001 Gosford Park, which inspired Downton Abbey. When he envisioned the Dowager Countess, he saw Smith's similarly haughty character in Gosford Park. So, not a long biography on her, but Rest in peace, Maggie Smith, who died at the age of 89. She was born in 1934. John Ashton. Who's John Ashton, you ask? Well, if you've seen Beverly Hills Cop, you know who he is. He's Officer Taggart. Officer Taggart, and he also played Marvin in, remember that movie Midnight Run with Robert De Niro? He played, remember Marvin, the other bounty hunter? That's who he played. That guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you know Beverly Hills Cop, you know who he is. Taggart and Rosewood, the two cops from Beverly Hills that Eddie Murphy interacts with. Springfield, Massachusetts-born John Ashton began his acting career on stage, performing the works of Shakespeare and moving on to repertory roles that took him from New England through Europe and beyond. He won a Los Angeles Drama Critics Award for A Flea in Her Ear before his 1973 screen debut, an episode of An Eye for an Eye. Episodes of Kojak, Columbo, Wonder Woman, MASH, Dallas, and other TV shows followed. In 1984, he had what was arguably his best-known role when he played Sergeant Taggart in Beverly Hills Cop alongside Eddie Murphy and Judge Reinhold. It was a movie role he'd reprised throughout the rest of his career, including July 2024's Beverly Hills Cop's Axel F., which I'm still watching. It's on Netflix.
Oh, is it? Okay.
He also played Cliff Nelson in John Hughes Penn's Some Kind of Wonderful. Other notable films included the 1979 coming-of-age drama Breaking Away and 1988's Midnight Run, and the 2007 thriller Gone Baby Gone. In 2015, he won the Best Lead Actor at the Hell's Half Mile Film and Music Festival for his work in Uncle John. And now on to sports, as we had two famous athletes die this week. Dikembe Mutombo passed away, Hall of Fame NBA shot blocker. He was born in 1966, so he's dying here at the age of, it looks like 56 or 55. Born in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo, Mutombo came to the U.S. in 1997 to attend Georgetown University. Already 20 years old when he enrolled, he was planning to attend medical school and help the sick. But at 7 feet 2 inches tall, Mutombo caught the eye of the school's basketball coach. Well, 7 feet 2, you're catching everybody's eye. John, he was new to the sport. He played back. He caught the eye of the school's basketball coach anyway, John Thompson. He wasn't new to the sport. He played back home alongside football and martial arts. At Georgetown, he built his early training and became a formidable defensive player, feared by opponents for his shot blocking. The fact that Mutombo was several years older than his fellow college graduates didn't matter in the face of his talent. He was the 4th overall pick in the 1991 NBA draft, selected by the Denver Nuggets. Fans quickly fell in love with his skills and his signature taunt after blocking a shot. And he does Geico commercials. You might have seen him on a Geico commercial, or I think it's a Geico commercial. He's blocking shots. He's blocking everybody. He does this finger wag when he blocks. It was actually very entertainment. You block a shot and you do a finger wag. Anyway, Mutombo was a great, comic relief, I would say. In 1996, Mutombo signed with the Atlantic Hawks. He went on to play for the Philadelphia 76ers, New Jersey Nets, New York Knicks, and Houston Rockets before his 2009 retirement. Along the way, he became the eight-time All-Star, 4-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year. 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. With 3,289 blocks over his 18 career, Mutombo was the second greatest shot blocker in NBA history. He was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in 2015, and his number 55 jersey was retired by the Nuggets and the Hawks. Along with his defensive prowess, Mutombo is known for his humanitarian work. He established the Dikembe Mutombo Foundation to improve healthcare and education in his home of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Among the foundation's successes was the building of the Biamba Marie Mutombo Hospital right outside Kinshasa, named in memory of the NBA star's late mother. He was also a global ambassador for Special Olympics and a spokesman for an international relief agency, CARE. Mutombo's trademark finger wag became well known to a new generation when he starred in Geico commercials, swatting away objects like crumpled piece of paper and a pile of laundry while chucking and making an iconic gesture. He also made cameo appearances in such movies as Like Mike and Coming to America. So Eddie Murphy connecting with this guy too, right? So Eddie Murphy connection with two actors that passed away this week. We called him an actor because he was in commercials and he was in Coming to America. And our last obituary, Pete Rose, all-time hit leader in baseball, in Major League Baseball, and American Major League Baseball, has passed away. Pete Rose was a legend of the Cincinnati Reds, a Major League Baseball's all-time leader in hits, at-bats, and other metrics. He was permanently banned from baseball after betting on his own team's games while managing the Reds. The pinnacle of Pete Rose's career was a hit record that hasn't been surpassed almost 40 years after he set it. But when his professional record began in 1963, few would have predicted he'd reach such heights. Small for his age and held back in high school, Rose played baseball and football as he grew up in Cincinnati. As a senior, he also played a local amateur team, yet didn't make the radar of any major league teams. However, Rose was lucky enough to have an uncle who was a scout for the Reds and encouraged the team to take a chance on his nephew. The decision to sign him quickly paid off as Rose was named National League Rookie of the Year. By 1965, he was an all-star, the first of 17 seasons with that distinction. He played with the Reds through 1978, winning back-to-back World Series with the team in 75 and 76. As Rose rose to baseball world, he became one of the sport's true characters, known for his all-out, hard-charging style of play. He delighted fans with his headfirst slides into bases and unabashed love for the game. He was famously known for declaring, "I walked through hell in a gasoline suit to play baseball." Rose played with enthusiasm and he did it well, achieving a 3-home run game in 1978, a 44-game hitting streak later that season. Given the nickname Charlie Hustle as a rookie opponent Whitey Ford, Rose embraced it as a compliment and the perfect description of his approach to the game. So, in short, he went on to become manager of the Reds after his retirement from regular playing. He was a player manager, although he didn't play that much, and he was suspended for betting on baseball, betting on his own team. And that's a no-no in baseball. Even if you bet on your own team, you're tipping off the gamblers, because the gamblers know, unless you're spending $50 every single game or the same amount every single game, they're going to go, "Hey, Pete Rose only bet $20 today. He must not trust his pitcher." So the gamblers are tipped off. So Pete Rose messed with the integrity of the game. That's why he was suspended. He's still not in the Hall of Fame, and him not being alive anymore probably isn't going to change that. Because, well, Soulish Joe Jackson's not in the Hall of Fame either. So he's been dead for a long time. And him dying didn't change a thing. They just said, "Too bad you're banned. You cheated. Goodbye. Have a nice day. Have a nice retirement." So Pete Rose passes away. Not going to say anything negative about the guy because he just died, but I don't think he was that great of a guy to begin with. So seemed like a little bit of a self-centered jerk in the most interviews I've ever seen. Anyway, those are your stories. You're passing away of celebrities this week. If you're still with me, back to you.
That's a lot of people. The only thing I have to say is maybe this is more of my perception of death or whatever. But when people were like, "I can't believe Maggie Smith died. This is so tragic," and I'm like, she was like a 200. And she survived cancer.
She's 89, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just like,
88
guys,
or 89.
Please.
It's time to remember, and that's all.
I think you're allowed to be sad, but you're not. I don't understand acting like the world's ended and getting so traumatically affected by something like this with somebody you don't know. Like, I've watched the Harry Potter
It's a
films.
passage of time.
She's in my favorite film of all time from my childhood, which is The Secret Garden. She's like the angry housekeeper in The Secret Garden. You know? But I'm not sitting here going, like I lost my grandmother, you know? I don't know Maggie Smith. And if I ever miss her, I can just watch the film she's in, because she's still there forever, immortalized. So, that's my opinion on actors dying anyways. Just like
Well,
you
yeah,
always-
you always have them in movies. That's right.
Yeah.
I could sit here and watch them forever and ever and ever. It's more of a wistful nostalgia with old people like me. It's like, oh, another one. Oh, another one. You know, my childhood's gone forever. No shit.
My childhood's gone forever.
Anyway.
Well, in more culture news, let's talk about this odd study that discovered the majority of UK, so United Kingdom children's books with black main characters were actually written by white authors. That's not actually bad or means anything, but it is weird. This is Ella Creamer on The Guardian. More than half of children's books with marginalized main characters are by writers and illustrators who do not share their protagonist's identity, according to a new study. The Excluded Voices report, published by charity Inclusive Books for Children (IBC), identified 568 children's books published in the UK from 2014 to 2023, so a 10-year range, that contains main characters from minoritized ethnicities who are disabled or neurodivergent. It found that 78.3% of books with minoritized ethnic main characters were black or ambiguously black or brown, and that 53% of the books with black or ambiguously brown main characters were by white authors and illustrators. It's revealing that white creatives prefer to convey black main characters over their so-called marginalized groups, said author Jeffrey Bouquet. To me, this highlights the focus and limitations of the white mainstream gaze. Currently, black characters are visible proxy for inclusion overall, appeasing white anxieties over not being inclusive enough, despite the rich and varied legacies that so many other ethnic and minoritized groups also have to offer. When it came to baby and toddler books published in the last decade, 90.2% of the 123 featured marginalized main characters were by white authors and illustrators, while 83.9% were by white creators who do not share the identity of the protagonist. Only 3% of baby and toddler books with diverse casts were by creators from marginalized groups. I think the real problem is, what you could argue the real problem is that if you're a family, a black family or an Indian family or whatever, you want to buy books that portray you, right? So that your kid isn't confused or whatever when they're like, why am I always looking at some white kids in my baby books or whatever? And the issue is, right, if those illustrators and authors are all white, that means there's white people making money off of your kind of marginalized existence. So I can see that's why, for me, that would be a bad thing. I thought I was just supporting a Mexican or Latino person, and then it was like, no, it was just some white lady who, doesn't even know any Mexicans who wrote this book, I'm not supporting anybody. I'm just supporting another white person who could have just wrote a story about a white person and then gotten the same amount of money, probably even more, because they probably would sell more books. We are skeptical about the authenticity of representation that can be achieved by creators with no lived experience of the identity they seek to portray, reads the report. Authors and illustrators should be able to exercise creative freedoms, of course, but given how few creators from marginalized groups are published, we argue that until the playing field is leveled, they should be first in line for commissions to tell their own stories. Of 325 picture books published in the last decade featuring a marginalized main character, just 24 feature a South Asian protagonist. Despite the UK demographic data, South Asian representation in children's books is on the floor. And in fiction, these kids are often sidekick, and so rarely the main character. Yeah, you're watching a UK show when you have the Indian kid side character. It's so common, I can't even tell you, it's so common. Author Rashmi Deshpande has said, between 6.9% and 8.5% of the UK population is South Asian, according to IBC. Somebody can do the quick math there on the only 24 protagonists featured in books. There, out of the 325, you can do the math there. It's not a lot. Just 25 picture books aimed at children from 3 to 7, published in the last decade, found to feature East and Southeast Asian ECEA protagonists, amounting to negligible representation, said the report. We have been an invisible diaspora in the British publishing until recently, have been seen either as the model minority or perpetual foreigners, said author Maisie Chan. The report identified 17 children's books featuring neurodivergent main characters published in the last decade, 12 of which were by neurotypical authors and illustrators. IBC's recommendations for books with marginalized main characters written by authors sharing their identity, categorized as own voice books, include Sona Sharma, Very Best Big Sister by Chitra Sundar, I Am Nefertiti by Annie Marie Anang, and Too Green by Sumana C. Bruce. It's very nice of them to give us a little list of books that we can read. The report is a serious call to action for the whole of UK's children book publishing. Look beyond tokenistic, trend-driven commissioning and pigeonholing of our own voice creators into issue-only books, and instead address inclusivity more deeply, genuinely, and rigorously, said Fabia Turner, head of the content at IBC. Another problem I just thought of is if you're writing a book, like they said, from kind of this tokenistic pigeonholing point of view, you kind of treat these characters as minority characters, not in a basic way, right? Because being white is considered like the natural, neutral place, right? They're allowed to deal with stuff that is in a neutral area, like what to do when my cat gets lost. But unfortunately, in some cases, when you create books about marginalized people, you make everything into a marginalized problem. Like instead of, Tommy lost his cat and is stuck in a tree, instead you have to make it about like, don't play with guns or something. I'm just trying to think of something really prejudiced to think of, but like, oh, you're a black kid, don't play with guns because those black people have guns and they're always shooting each other. That's just an example. I don't think there's a book about that. But I think that's what they're saying here, right? There's people who are writing books that tokenize the characters instead of just making, oh, there's a person who looks like me at the end. Instead, it's about, hey, look, there's a person who looks like me and they're doing stuff that I've never experienced, but I guess that's the black experience now, that I expect my life to be like this because of this book. Because kids are very easily influenced by stuff like that, and if they see certain characters acting a certain way, or they expect to also be that way, right? Oh, that's how I'm supposed to be, according to this book that was written by some white person who doesn't even know how I'm supposed to be. Anyways, that's my little rant there. On to this day in history.
Okay, if I'm still there, I'm going to do this day in history, if you can still hear me. I'm not sure you can, so say something if you can hear me. Okay, all right, this day in history. In 1190, in this day, Richard the Lionheart, on his way to Jerusalem during the Third Crusade, invaded this hostile Sicily and took the key city of Messina. Oh, by the way, I sent you a video. I don't know if I brought that up yet, but I did send a video. 1535, the first complete English Bible, the work of Miles Coverdale, came off the press in either Zurich, Switzerland, or Cologne, Germany. Not even sure. Can't narrow it down. Not even sure what country. In 1582, the Gregorian calendar was introduced, and over the following centuries, numerous countries adopted it. The Gregorian calendar wins, yay! 1822, Rutherford B. Hayes, the 19th President of the United States, who brought post-Civil War Reconstruction to an end in the South, was born. So he was kind of a shitty president. In 1853, in this day, the Crimean War began as the Ottoman Turks, later joined by England and France, declared war on Russia. The fighting lasted more than 2 years and ended with a Russian defeat. See that, Russia? You should never try to invade Crimea. In 1895, Buster Keaton was born, American film comedian and director who was known for his deadpan expressions and imaginative and often elaborate visual comedy. Happy birthday to Buster Keaton. 1970, American singer Janis Joplin died of an accidental overdose of heroin. Known for her fierce and uninhibited musical style. Doesn't say much else about Janis Joplin, but she passed away this day, 1970, at the age of 27. 1989, the American Racehorse Secretariat was euthanized after contacting laminitis. Secretariat in 1973 won the U.S. Triple Crown, the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness Stakes, and the Belmont Stakes. So, Secretary was 3 years old in 1973. That means 1970. You got 1989, 19 years. Roughly, Secretary got to be 19. In 1993, the so-called Battle of Mogadishu in Somalia ended with a death toll that included 18 U.S. soldiers and hundreds of Somalis. The conflict occurred during U.S.-led military operation that was part of a wider international humanitarian and peacekeeping effort in the war-torn African country. Excuse me. In 2014, Haitian politician Jean-Claude Duvalier, Baby Doc, who was president of Haiti from 1971 to 1986, died in Port-au-Prince while he's on trial for alleged human rights abuses. It took him a long time to put Baby Doc Duvalier on trial. 2014, he was still on trial. And he's out of office since 86. Jeez. 1957, on this day, Sputnik 1 was launched by the USSR. On this day, 57, Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite, which orbited Earth until 1958, inaugurated the space age and heightened Cold War competition between the USSR and the US. Our feature biography, Charlton Heston, the guy who played the guy from Planet of the Apes, and the guy who played Moses in the Ten Commandments. Charlton Heston, you damn dirty apes! Anyway, his birthday is October 4th, 1923. His 101st birthday. Born in Evanston, Illinois. He died April 5th, 2008 in Beverly Hills, California. That's when they pried that gun out of his cold, dead hands. Don't forget he was the head of the NRA. So, Charlton Heston's hands became cold and dead on April 5th, 2008. Other birthdays today: Anne Rice, American author, born in 1941. Susan Sarandon, born in 1946, American actress. And Christopher Waltz, the Austrian actor, born in 1956. So, this day is also a bunch of days. What day is it today? It is National Golf Lovers Day, which is cool, I guess. Go out and play around the golf. You don't have to tell a golf lover that. He's already there. National Vodka Day. Don't mix vodka and golf. You'll lose your balls. And it's National Cinnamon Bun Day. National Manufacturing Day. All right, get to work.
Manufacture your
and it's
vodka.
But they don't drink that vodka before you manufacture. Don't do that. They say don't buy anything that's manufactured on a Friday. I don't know if that old bromine is true.
Really? Huh.
World Smile Day. It's World Smile Day. We covered that in the introduction. It's also World College Radio Day. Yeah, college radio. And they don't care about sponsorships. They just play whatever they feel like playing. And National Body Language Day. National Body Language. I'm trapped in a box. Body language. All those days today. So a whole bunch of things to celebrate today, and plus it's Friday. And if you're looking forward to that weekend, boy, you just can't wait. It's hot. So those are your days for today, October 4th, 2024, on Before Cinnamon Buns.
Well, this has been Allison here from the Netherlands. Hope you guys have a good weekend. We will see you on Monday, so make sure that you're subscribed and have that notification bell turned on so you get notified when we go live on Monday for our Mucking Fun Day, where we're going to cover everything that's happened over the weekend. So for now, don't worry about it and just have a good one. Don't forget to also like this video if you enjoyed learning about all the things we've dumped out on you, all that information.
Whew.
And
That was a big dump.
Yeah, it was a huge one. And
Yeah,
we'll
he's
see you
all
next
dump.
time. Here is our
Smoke a
mic
cigarette.
drop moment.
Yeah. Port Arthur, Texas.
Did your parents
Port Arthur,
encourage you to
Texas.
sing at all?
Oh, no. They wanted me to be a school teacher, you know, like all parents. But I just started singing when I was about 17. I listened to a lot of music first, and one day I started singing, and I could sing. It was like, it was a surprise, to say the least.
When did you first get to hear the blues?
Oh, I was about 14, I guess.
Do you remember the first record you bought, the first blues record?
Well, I remember it was a Leadbelly record. You heard of Leadbelly?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I used to listen to a lot of Leadbelly. And I don't remember exactly which one it was, though. It was one of his.
And then you moved up to San Francisco.
Yeah, in about 63 or something like that. I couldn't stand Texas anymore, and I went to California. Because it's a lot freer, and you can,
In the same week,
you know, do what you want
Chris
to do.
Christopherson
Nobody
died.
bugs you.
Yeah.
Do you ever go back to Port Arthur?
I went back once. It's a bummer. You know, I ain't going back again.
Port Arthur, Texas. Yeah, I've been there. It's just oil
When did you
refineries.
join Big Brother and the holding company?
66, summer of 66. We were all just getting started.
Yeah,
It was-
Chris Christopherson's
it
from
was
South
fun.
Texas, too.
How did you meet them?
Through a friend I had, a guy I used to know in Texas. One time I hitchhiked from Austin to San Francisco with this guy, and then later, his name is Chet Helms. Later, he got involved in promoting the dances in San Francisco, and he was managing Big Brother, and he knew me from a long time ago in
It's really
Texas.
tragic.
And he got me to come out and be with the band,
Drugs.
and I just met him.
After Chet Helms, you got another manager, Albert Grossman, who also manages Bob
Albert
Dylan.
Grossman,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's better.
He's
How did you meet?
It's like a
Albert
catch-22. You're like
when we
rich
played
enough to
the,
buy drugs,
The Monterey Pop
but
Festival.
then you think that would
You
be
know,
enough to
we
not.
had we had another intermittent,
do drugs.
intermittent manager.
Oh, she
then,
liked
who
the
was
But
party.
heroin is
all,
very
but
addictive.
She loved the party.
I just
Yeah.
met Albert at the Monterey thing because there was a film being made and a lot of
I mean,
problems,
performing is a party.
backstage problems,
So-
and I met him.
If you want to be a
Trying to
performer, you
solve
have to be good at
something.
partying.
Do you have any explanation why you're
And
so popular?
musicians use drugs, especially speed type drugs,
Yeah.
to keep performing.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.